Views shared are those of the guest and may not reflect those of Well-Being with CJ Horrell. This episode is not a substitute for professional care. Please consult your healthcare provider for personal guidance.
Welcome to Well-Being with CJ Harrell. Candid conversations about life, health, and faith that encourage us to pursue our best selves. Here's CJ.
What do you do when life changes in a single phone call? When the person you love is suddenly gone and the questions feel heavier than the answers. This isn't just a story about loss, it's a story about courage, faith, and the kind of healing that it takes. In today's episode, Grief to Grace, a sister's journey through loss, and the reminder that even in the darkest moments, you're not alone. In today's edition of the pod, my guest experienced the sudden tragic loss of her brother to suicide, a moment that changed everything. Yet through unimaginable pain, she found her way toward hope, healing, and even grace. This conversation is not about answers or a quick fix. It's about being real with the pain of grief, honoring the memory of a loved one, and discovering that even in darkness, light can find its way through. If you or someone you love is walking through loss, I pray that this episode reminds you that you're not alone and that healing, while slow, is possible. Welcome to the podcast, Renee Weekes-Parris. Good to have you on. I am super excited. How are you today?
I'm good as well. I'm excited and looking forward to what this podcast brings.
Yeah, now Renee is joining us virtually from Barbados. How is Barbados? That's my mother's homeland. How is Barbados today? Nice and sunny?
Nice, sunny, hot.
Yeah, hot. Do you live close to the water?
It's about a 10-minute drive to the beach
10 minutes.
from where I live.
Well, yeah, that's super close though. For me, that's super close. So are
Yeah,
you, because I mean, I'm a Caribbean boy. So are you typical Caribbean girl where we live close to the water, but we don't go to the beach?
I don't go to the beach. I have not been to the beach for the year.
For the year, Renee? The entire year, you have not been to the beach.
Have not.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. Well, you know what? After the pod, sometime between now and next week, you got to take a sea bath for all of us that can't.
I will do my best. I can't make any promises.
Well, Reddy, welcome to the pod. You have an amazing story, a story that is full of hope, a story of healing, a story of grace. Um, and it's a difficult one. And because of that, I am really grateful that you decided that you would be willing to come on the Wellbeing podcast. Could you share? It's a story about your brother and a very difficult call that you got one day. But before we get into all of that, could you share a little bit about your brother, who he was, and what he meant to you?
If I had to describe Shane using a few words, it would have to be life of the party. He was a little overprotective, especially with his sisters. He was caring, super intelligent. There's no math equation that he could not solve. And I used to call him a nerd because who would go and get a degree in physics? So, so what it meant to me, he was my I used to call him my only favorite brother because he was the only brother, the only boy in our all of my mom's children. Um, and we were like 4 years apart. And yeah, I just the middle siblings because there were four of us, so we decided we're the middle siblings, and that was our story. But he meant so much more than a brother to me. He was, I used to call him my advisor. I used to ask him, what do you think about this? What do we do about this? What can we do about this? What are your thoughts on this? And he was also, I used to call him my math mentor because I love math, but sometimes the math would be too complicated to me to solve. So
Yeah, so you both sound like you were super close. Now, okay, did you mention who was the older, the eldest between you both? Were you older or
he was he was older.
he was older?
He was older.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so he was older and like he looked out for all the sisters.
he did. Yeah, but I have an older sister, and the both of them were super close because they have their age gap is a little bit closer. I think it's like 3 years. So it was the two of them, and then there was me, and then I have a little sister as well. So he used to basically look out for all of us. And over time, I mean, like Shan and I didn't always have the best relationship, but over, I would like to say, 7, 8 years, we got super close. Because he was leaving for St. Martin. He was leaving Barbados to go to St. Martin for his job. And we had a little disagreement. And my mom said to us, Shane is leaving the country. We cannot be on not speaking terms. So we made a deal that no matter what happens, we would talk about it, we would settle it, and we would not go weeks without speaking to each other. And I said, cool, I can do that. He said, we will do that. And it just made our relationship stronger. So,
That's really beautiful. I didn't know that. I mean, I know a little bit about your story, but I didn't know that. And that is tremendously beautiful and encouraging because there's so many times where we go through things and we, with family, because, family can be difficult at times, and then we don't
mhm,
repair that bridge or make those kinds of commitments to make sure, hey, you know what, no matter what, let's not allow things to fester and, let's keep that love connection clear at all times. That is very beautiful. So, and you're a teacher. So you're all
yeah.
very nerdy, Renee. I
I
was
would say
poking
he's the
at you.
nerdiest one.
I was poking at you. I was poking at you. But no, but you're all well educated. That's awesome. You're a teacher. Um, what age groups do you teach or age group do you teach?
I teach kindergarten, 5 to 6 years old. So I teach the little ones. Shane taught secondary, and my older sister Sabrina, she also teaches secondary.
Oh wow. I didn't know
Yeah,
your older sister taught as well. I didn't know that. So you're
yeah, she
teaching
teaches in St. Martin.
so you're teaching the really excitable ones.
Yes, the ones that come with all the lovely stories and just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it
And
always
then I have a little sister who decided she wants to be a nurse, so she's studying nursing.
nice. Nice. Take us back to the moment when you first learned about Shane's passing. What was that day like for you?
Well, the week of Monday, she messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm going to my aunt in New York. I'm leaving Minnesota and I'm going to my aunt in New York. I'm leaving on Wednesday." We spoke Monday, we spoke Tuesday, and on Wednesday I knew he was leaving, and I couldn't remember the time difference between Barbados and Minnesota, but I said I was going to go into work early. I was going to give him a call, tell him safe travels, take some pictures along the way so I can see. And he said, sure, no problem. I spoke to him Tuesday night. Went to work Wednesday morning to call him, and as soon as I picked up my phone to call him, someone walked in, and it was just distractions. Um, then the evening, I had an afternoon session, a tutoring session. And when I was leaving, my mom called and asked, where are you? Have you heard Shane? I said, no, I haven't heard Shane as yet. And she said, can you pass by when you're leaving? And I said, sure, fine, no problem. I got to my mom. She said, let's go and grab something to eat. I did that. And when I dropped her back home, she said, can you check Shane's location? I said, sure. So I checked it. It was saying Minnesota, but the location was loading. And she asked what that meant. And I said, well, usually when you're out of you don't have any internet or data on your phone, the location keeps spinning. And she said, okay, well, maybe he's on the bus and he doesn't have any internet. We'll wait for him to call. I said, okay, fine. That's how we left the conversation. It was after stopping. Went home. I came home and was just chatting with my husband. And then as I was preparing for, to go to bed, after 10, I got a call from my little sister. I knew something happened, but I didn't know what it was because my little sister never calls me. So I knew something was wrong. And she never calls me after 10.
Mm-hmm.
So when she called me, she said, Shane passed. I said, what? What? And I asked her, how? And she said, suicide. I said, Shane? And while she was telling me what happened, I heard my mom in the background, another call, and I can tell she was livid by the tone in her voice and she was yelling. And I said, okay, tell me what happened. And she told me Shane is dead. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I screamed. I woke my husband up because he's like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the floor in the bathroom and I was crying. I more sure woke my neighbors up. And I was on the floor for about 5 minutes. He picked me up and he was like, you can't stay here. You have to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked me up and I took a shower and I called back my sister when I finished and I said, I'm on my way. It's about 20 minutes to get to my mom from where I live. And when I got there, my sister was there, my mom's friend was there, and my mom was on the phone with Shane's ex-girlfriend. And my mom was asking her what happened and just all the details. And at some point, my mom just hung up on her because I guess she was frustrated, trying to grasp what was going on. And seeing my mother in that state, I've never seen her in this state. It was just everything coming in all at once. Processing Shane's death, how he died, seeking answers in that moment because obviously he's not in Barbados. So, what happened, the time of death, everything that just happened throughout that day. And I just remember my mom was not crying, but she was angry. She was confused. And I just remember we were all in the house. And then as soon as my mom hung up the phone, it was just a switch that went off. And she said, I'm going to get Shane. Shane is on his way to Barbados. He's coming to Barbados to see me because that is what he told me. And that switch that went off, I guess that was the first stage of her grieving. And she was saying, I'm going for Shane, I'm going for Shane, Shane is not dead, I'm going for Shane. And it's just, everything just, so many things happened in that moment that I could not believe. My mom became someone who I did not recognize because she was stuck in this loop of Shane is not dead. Shane is coming. I'm going to get Shane. He's at the airport. He's on his way to his aunt in New York. And my mom got changed and she got her handbag and she was aiming for the door. I do not know where her strength came from, but she pushed all of us to the side. It literally took all of us to keep her from opening the door. We had to bolt the door and everything to stop her from getting from leaving the house. And as soon as we got her to calm down, it was, I'm going to get Shane. I'm going to get Shane. It was, I really can't describe. I can't even put a word to everything that happened within those 2 hours. It was processing, okay, Shane is no longer here. I'm processing my mom's reaction to it as well.
Wow. Many people feel a wide range of emotions, and you shared some of the emotions that you felt. Now, moving forward, like let's say a few days after, or maybe a week or two after, what are some of the emotions you remember feeling in those early days and weeks?
I was confused. I was angry. I felt sadness. I felt heartbroken. And on top of that, I don't know if what I was actually grieving because here we have Shane has passed, and then my mom who went into this loop of where Shane, it was almost unrecognizable. I my mom only remembered that she had 3 children when she had 4. She did not remember a lot of people. So at that point, I picked up on what was happening, and people were coming to the house, and I had to tell them, okay, my mom is not in the best state. Can you come back? So at that point, I felt like I had to protect my mom and my little sister, and who's coming in and out of the house as well, because there's so much going on. Everyone wanted to be there, which is fine, but this was not my mom. This was not the lady I know.
Or the lady you
The
want
fact
people to
that
necessarily see in that
yes,
state.
and then
Yeah.
yes, so I had to protect her while still processing Shane's death because she was not believing that Shane had passed. And she was stuck in this loop for a couple of days and it became stressful. But I was happy that I was the one to be there for her and with her until my older sister Sabrina was coming to Barbados. So Sabrina was coming on a Tuesday and I had another family friend who was in Barbados and I told her about it and she came as well. My mom did not even remember her either. I had to be prompting her, like, you remember this person? And so it was a very selective set of people that who had the understanding of how my mom of knew, had the understanding of my mom and the situation. So it was stressful. I started to slip into depression and I didn't know I was slipping into depression because I just wanted to go to work and come home and just lay down. And have the process repeat. I wasn't going to any swimming, I wasn't doing any dancing, I wasn't going to any spin classes, and my body was just hurt, and they couldn't understand why. So those are the range of emotions I felt. It was a whole bunch just circulating.
Now, being the one to sort of be, so supportive of your mom and everybody around you, were there moments when you felt overwhelmed, or not sure how to keep moving forward?
Yes, yes, there were days, there were moments when I felt very overwhelmed, and especially when I had to go back to when I had to go back to work because I took 2 days off, which was the Thursday, Friday, so I had the weekend. Then I went to work on Monday, and when I got out of the car, I didn't want to get out of the car. And my principal came to me and he said, "How are you doing?" And I just burst into tears. And I told him, "Can we not let the whole staff know? Please keep it private because I don't want to add to that overwhelming emotion." Everyone's saying, "Oh, sorry." I didn't want that. I didn't want
Yeah,
any of that.
yeah.
And I just walked to my classroom and I just stood there and I was just crying because no, I was in a space by myself with no one around, and I felt like I had a little bit of freedom to cry. And I cried for about I cried for a good while, and then I said, "Okay, the children are coming in. I need to be upbeat for them." And then they just came in and they asked me, "Where were you? Why weren't you at school for 2 days?" And it felt like forever, and
Yep, as kids would do. What's going
as they
on?
would do,
Yeah.
like, what happened? And so even though in those moments I wanted to cry, I had to remind myself I have to be happy for them.
That's big. That's big. Which
It,
so then how did the loss affect your relationships with family, friends, or even with yourself?
um, there was a lot of tension. Um, there were some people I expected to reach out to me and be there for me. They weren't there, and people who I didn't expect to show up showed up. Um, the family, our family, sometimes they say death can bring out the worst and the best in people, but there was definitely tension within the family. Some friends I could not, or acquaintances I could not tolerate because I felt like my patience level was getting super low. And some people I did not reply to, some people I deleted and blocked because I just could not stand their energy and they could not understand what I was going through, which is fine. But I felt the need to take ownership of that and who I allowed to drain my energy in such traumatic time is also a sensitive time. So I just had to let go of some people without I didn't feel anything by doing it because I had to protect myself, protect my energy.
Yeah. Were there things people said or did that help you feel supported, or maybe things that unintentionally hurt you?
Yeah. There was one thing someone said to me that made me open my eyes. And they said, your brother was tired of life, so he decided to take it on his own.
Hmm.
I, I and I just replied, okay, and I did not speak to that person for a few days.
Hmm.
And a few days they checked in and they said, are you okay? And I said, yeah. I didn't tell them what you said was hurtful. I just distanced myself for a few days.
Hmm.
And then on the flip side, I did have people who were supportive. I had a friend who brought me coffee, who brought me cupcakes, and she just said, I am here. There are other people who reached out and said, I don't know what to say, but I am here for you.
Hmm. Hmm. We're going to take a short break and we're going to come back. But before we take that break, could you tell me if you remember? You told me a story about something that one of your students did that was really encouraging to you. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that story. Um, I came in and she walked in, and I remember she had like two ponytails, and she came and gave me a big hug, and she said, I missed you so much. You were gone forever. I said, well, it was only 2 days and then the weekend. And she pulled the chair next to my table and she said, I don't ever want to leave you. And she held my hand and she said, I miss you so much. And she said, I just want to be by your side. And I sensed she knew something was going on with me. And it just got so emotional because it was just her little hand holding my hand, and she was just wrapped all around my hand, just sitting next to me. And I asked her, don't you want to go play with your friend? She was like, no, I
Hmm.
just want to stay with you. And she sat next to me, and I just thought that was the that carried me through the day. And rightfully, we went to a break, we went to lunch, and she was just by my side the whole day.
That is one of the most beautiful stories. Children have a way sometimes, man. They're so precious.
Really.
You're listening to Wellbeing with CJ Harrell.
Every life tells a story, but too often those stories are lost with time. The laughter, the lessons, the wisdom gone before the next generation can hear them. With Timeless Ties, we help you capture those priceless memories and preserve them forever. Through guided conversations, we turn your loved one's voice, stories, and life journey into a lasting keepsake. Whether it's a beautifully printed photo book, a heartfelt audio recording, or a documentary styled video. This isn't just about saving stories, it's about preserving love, building connection, and passing down a legacy that time can never erase. Book your free consultation today and begin your family's journey with Timeless Ties, because memories fade, but legacies last. Timeless Ties, a gift of memory, love, and legacy. At what point did you begin to sense that healing, even in small ways, was possible?
When I got back into my workout routine and I smiled because I wanted to smile and not because I had to. Because I felt like there were days where I had to smile and it wasn't genuine. And then there were days when when I smiled and I felt like it was okay. Today is going to be a good day.
Hmm. Yeah, the difference, I guess, between smiling for yourself and smiling for people because you think that's what they need to see. But
Yeah.
the smiles started to return, smiles that were from within, and that's beautiful. What practical steps or practices helped you take care of yourself through the grieving process?
Well, I sought life coaching sessions. I started to journal when I felt it was like too much emotions to process. And I usually did it at night before bed so I can just document and journal everything that I was feeling throughout the day. I started listening to meditation at night before bed.
Hmm.
I tried tennis
Mm, that's cool.
and I just really I set a personal goal for myself for swimming. So that was something new as well. I started listening to more podcasts. I just tried as I saw something that I was interested in, I just said, okay, let me do this or let me try this.
Hmm. So you mentioned journaling and meditation. Did faith and spirituality play a role in your journey? And if so, how?
Well, when I heard of Shane's death, I questioned my spirituality, and my faith.
Hmm.
It was questionable for a few months, and then when I started my life coaching sessions, I realized you always had a way of reassuring me that I can still have faith, like I should have faith.
Hmm.
And I started to feel I started to lean more on those scriptures that would relate to our question or relate to something I was feeling. So I started to feel a sense of relief when my faith started to not soothe me, but yes, it was
Hmm.
soothing,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they were also reassuring.
Hmm. You know, sometimes in the midst of deep pain, we discover unexpected strength. Did you find that certain parts of yourself grew or changed through your experience?
Yes, some things I would say that grew. I became more of trying. I became a little bit more of a risk taker, a little bit more trying things on my own and not waiting for people to do them with me.
Hmm. There, there are many listening who may be experiencing grief or supporting someone who is. What would you say to someone who feels like their pain will never cease?
What will I say? It for me it doesn't get better. So why I say that it doesn't get better, but you learn to manage and you learn to cope as each day passes.
Hmm.
The waves still come. You still get those waves of emotion where you cry, and that doesn't stop. The pain will be there, but it becomes more manageable
Hmm.
as each day, each month passes by.
Hmm. If you could tell someone who has just experienced a similar loss one thing from your heart, what would it be?
Give yourself grace, which I'm still practicing.
Hmm. That's good. That's good. What? Okay, I didn't plan to ask you this, but since you just said that, what does giving yourself grace look like? Like one thing you could describe.
Allow yourself to feel the feels, feel the emotion, and don't be too hard on yourself, which I'm also still learning.
What do you wish people understood better about grief after suicide?
That it is still a loss. And I had to, or I'm learning to accept that
Hmm. Hmm.
it is still a loss of a loved one.
Hmm. I think that's so important to understand because sometimes people associate so much shame with suicide, but it's a loss of a loved one, you know. Um, yeah, I appreciate that insight. How do you keep your brother's memory alive in a way that brings you peace or joy now?
Well, I've been, because we used to talk about things that we could do together, or, just to better ourselves. And he would always say, take a 6 week course or do something online, learn a new skill, learn something new, be more tech savvy, because he also did computer science. So he would always tell me, going to IT, um, he, what he would always suggest, working out, staying healthy. And with my lupus, he was always like a little annoying. Like, did you eat this? Are you doing this? What's your calorie intake? Um, you need to go harder. So he was a little tough on that side.
Hmm.
And I'm actually I've been active a bit more and doing the things that I'm putting the energy and effort into the workouts that I do. He would always say, travel the world. The world is yours. Experience it, even if you have to go by yourself. He said, don't remain stuck in Barbados. Explore your options. Change your career whenever you feel like changing it. So, which leads me to me actually going on a solo trip this summer for 3 weeks. And I've never been on a solo trip.
Wow.
And I went back to St. Martin where he used to live. And just being there, I knew he would have been proud of me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm just, I probably travel at least once a year and see someplace different. And he went a whole bunch of places because he has every country he went to, he had a little souvenir. So I'm gonna try to at least go to a few of those places.
Hmm.
Because then he would send me pictures, and then I would see all the pictures. And I was actually going through his pictures and saw all the places he went, and it just made me so emotional,
Hmm.
but also happy to know that he experienced these places.
Yeah. So the advice he gave you, he was living it. He was doing it himself. That's yeah.
He was living
Yeah.
the life, and
Yeah.
I would always say, "You're out here living the best life."
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, I know I want to come to Barbados. I don't know if the listeners picked it up, but I've been hearing that rooster intermittently in the background. It's making me, it's making me feel the island energy, man. So,
Not at 5 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, probably not. Looking back, how would you describe then where you are today compared to where you were at the beginning of this journey?
I think I am stronger in terms of know I did not know that I had this hidden strength in me, being able to unlock new things about myself, being able to handle certain situations much better than I was handling them before. So there's a new strength.
Hmm. And what does hope look like for you now?
I'm still figuring it out, but I think it can only get better.
Hmm. Now, you talked about things that Shane told you, challenged you to do, and you now through your journey are doing, like traveling. But is there anything else? Is there anything else that you're doing now or planning to do that you feel is part of honoring both your own healing and your brother's life?
This podcast.
Hmm.
And sometimes I talk to my older sister and we have a moment where we just talk about shame and then we move on.
Hmm. If you could go back and speak to yourself in those first days after your brother's passing, what would you say?
You will learn to manage and allow yourself some time, because what I have found is in the earlier stages, I used to just keep in my tears because I didn't just want to cry in front of people, and I used to keep those in,
Hmm.
which wasn't the which wasn't always the best.
Hmm.
But in those earlier stages, I would tell myself, you will learn to cope, you will learn to manage.
Hmm.
And even though Shane is not physically here, he is always with me. He's always with me.
Hmm. Renee, thank you so much for sharing your story with me and the listeners. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you being brave enough to do it, man. Is there a final thought or encouragement or message of hope you'd like to leave with the well-being listeners today?
I will say one day at a time. And even though it sounds very cliche, I have to remind myself, and they should remind themselves, not to think about what will happen 2 months from now or next week, but take it one day at a time. And whenever you're feeling the feels, you just let your emotions do their thing, and to always give yourself grace, because we extend so much grace to people that we sometimes forget, hey, I'm not extending grace to myself.
Hmm.
And that can be as small as, I just don't feel like going out with that person today, or I don't feel like I want to cancel my dinner plans with the girls, or cancel that beach day, or cancel that party to take time for yourself. And I've gotten into a self-care routine. Sometimes I don't always do it, but self-care is so important.
Thank you, Renee. From
You're welcome.
grief to grace, a sister's journey through loss. Thanks again for being on the pod today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I thought you would never ask.
Uh, well, I did. I did.
You are listening to Wellbeing with CJ Harrell.
Well-being with CJ Harrell.
Straight ahead, final thoughts.
It is comforting to know that on the other side of grief is love, because grief is a manifestation of the love we hold for that loved one who's passed. But grief is not limited to loss of a loved one. We also grieve the loss of things. Any loss can cause grief, including a divorce or relationship breakup, loss of health, loss of a job, loss of a pet, selling the family home, even a career change, graduating from college, or moving away from home can trigger a sense of grief. Grieving is a highly individual experience, and there's no right or wrong way to journey through grief. There are, however, healthy ways to deal with the grieving process. Grief can leave us feeling overwhelmed, shocked, angry, guilty, in disbelief, and a deep state of sadness. It can even disrupt our physical health, making it difficult to eat, sleep, or even think. All these are normal reactions to loss, and the greater the loss, the more intense the grief will be. Healing takes time, and whatever your journey is like, be patient with yourself and give yourself time. The pain will not go away faster if you ignore it. There's no predetermined time. Moving on is not about forgetting about your loss. Crying does not mean you're weak, nor do you have to be strong. You just have to be. So, acknowledge your pain. Accept and understand that grief can trigger many different unexpected emotions. Know that your grieving process will be unique to you. Seek out face-to-face support from the people who care about you. Self-care by supporting yourself emotionally. Take care of yourself physically. Recognize the difference between grief and depression and draw comfort from your faith. Remember, on the other side of grief is love. Trust your heart. Your heart will hold space for your mind to recall as you go through this healing journey. Remember, on the other side of grief is love. Thank you for listening to this deeply personal conversation from Grief to Grace, a sister's journey through loss. Grief doesn't have a timeline, and healing isn't linear, but even in the darkest moments, there is hope. If you're walking through loss yourself, know that you're not alone. Reach out to someone you trust. Give yourself permission to feel, and take each day one step at a time. This podcast is based in Ontario, Canada, so if you're experiencing thoughts of suicide or need immediate support, please contact Talk Suicide Canada at 833-456-4566, available 24/7, or text 45645. You can also call Connects Ontario at 866-531-2600 for free confidential mental health support. We hope this story reminded you that even in heartbreak, grace can find its way home. Please share this episode with someone who may need encouragement, and join us next week for another conversation on well-being with CJ Harrell.